The structure you see on the screen is extremely complicated. However, every time you sell a beast, a statutory levy of $5 is taken by the government, most of which goes to the MLA. Other parts go to Animal Health Australia, and another stream goes into Cattle Council disease funds. These funds are very secret, though funded by producers for the benefit of producers in a case like the BJD. Where are the funds? What we try to do is break this chart into 4 charts so as to give a less complicated assessment of how the MLA works. It should be remembered that MLA is run by 5 peak councils with competing interests. The old saying, a man cannot serve 2 masters. A bloke called Einstein said you can't solve a problem with the same kind of thinking that caused the problem. BJD is a symptom of the mismanagement of such problems. Here we see cattle producers putting $56 million into the coffers of the MLA, which comes through a statutory levy collected by the government, who pays the money straight into the MLA. This funding is sent straight from the Treasury without any checks and balances. Producers' voice is the Cattle Council, at least in theory. A functional cattle council would be a great asset, however they are dysfunctional, due in part to their financial position. The Cattle Council is run as a subcommittee of state farming organisations, whom, when MLA was formed, were a strong and vibrant force, with strong finances and strong intellect. In recent times, state farming organisations have been losing memberships, which of course means loss of finance and intellect. Some states are not paying their subscriptions, but still retain their seats on the Cattle Council. Cattle Council are desperate for funds and cannot carry out their duties on behalf of producers. Cattle Council income, $1.3 million. MLA, $171 million. Cattle Council, 4 employees. MLA, over 250. It appears Cattle Council is talking to MLA to get consultancy work to keep afloat. Could this be a case of supposed independent auditors being funded by the people they're supposed to audit? This slide shows the lot feeders pay $8 million into the MLA. However, the arrangements are very different to producers, as they ensure any funding going to the MLA is spent exactly how they specify. Processors control and operate most of the feedlots. This gives processors massive voting rights. Live shippers don't have a great deal in the way of financial support. However, they have a large voice. Domestic retailers, wholesalers and supermarkets don't contribute towards the upkeep of the MLA. However, retailers and supermarkets duopoly take large amounts of MLA funding through marketing agreements with the MLA. Though the amount is tightly guarded, it is secret commercial in confidence. Both Coles and Woolworths have a full-time MLA employee working on their separate accounts. Export processors and domestic processors pay about $9 million into the MLA through AMPC. The AMPC, as one of the 5 peak councils, have a reputed fighting fund in excess of $20 million. Compare this to the Cattle Council, and one is left in little doubt as to who runs MLA. In these circles and joint ventures, like Ozmeats, largely run by groups that pay little or nothing into the MLA. Supermarket retailers are great examples. They have the majority of members on things like language committee that comes up with A for meat that comes off a beast older than 4 years. Of course, in anything else, A is considered the best. These people also decide how much trim is removed before the scales. At one time, Ozmeats always informed processors prior to any inspection. When the subject was raised, industry people suggested that there would be blood on the floor if this didn't happen. What we see here is retail prices of beef between 2000 and 2010, and they've risen by 60%. Retailers and supermarkets are grateful. MLA judges this as a success for their marketing and vindicates the hundreds of millions of dollars of producers' money that they've spent on marketing. What should be remembered is that AMPC and other peak councils refuse to fund marketing. Producers, price minus nothing. In fact, we're going backwards. In real terms, since 2001, the price of beef has fallen by 40%. MLA and others are telling the producers how to become more efficient at their own additional expense. Producers now find themselves stuck between a rock and a hard place. In 1975, every man, woman and child enjoyed beef at approximately 70 kilograms a year. Chicken at the same time was 13 kilograms per person per year. In 2012, we see beef at a mere 33 kilograms and chicken now dominating at 45 kilograms per person per year. Whilst in 1990 the price of chicken was $6 per kilogram, by 2012 chicken had risen to $6.60 a kilogram. Over the same period, beef has gone from $9 a kilogram to $16 a kilogram retail. In the late 90s, MLA correctly considered that we need a retail grading system. MSA was developed. This was a tremendous system that has worked on a star grading system, 3, 4 and 5 star quality ratings. The first thing to go was the MLA graders, who were paid fees for service. Company graders then took over, and since then the meat mafia have been extremely busy, and the whole system has now been undermined by greed of certain sectors, not even a shadow of its original function. Here we have a photo showing 2 packages of Scotch. Both appear to be light in colour due to poor photography. However, the package on top is a top-class piece of meat, while the lower package is clearly a lower quality. The 4 pieces were all cooked at the same time, while the top pieces were quite delicious to eat. The bottom pieces were tough and gristly, but the dog enjoyed them. You can see the revenue that the grass-fed cattle producers are contributing. $52.5 million in 2012, which is more than all the other peak councils put together. What benefits do producers get? Improving market access, $20 million. Growing demand, $65 million. Increase in productivity, $24.7 million. Promoting integrity and sustainability, $15.3 million. Who does this really benefit? Perhaps retailers, supermarkets, processors, wholesalers, but certainly not the producers. If processors had a problem, such as a BJD equivalent, what would the MLA do? Would they tap into producers-funded animal disease insurance funds? Certainly producers can't seem to access such vital support. A new cattle corporation where all levies go, not dissimilar to APL or AMPC. This board will be funded by producers for the benefit of producers. This would mean that we have one board responsible for grass-fed cattle producers, unlike the MLA, which has 5 peak councils, each with competing interests. This board could then decide how much levies producers pay and oversee marketing and R&D expenditures to be sure producers receive appropriate supports. This board will be elected by levy payers, no processors or retailers to be part of it. Every levy collected would mean automatic voting rights and membership of the new corporation.